Okay, here it is, your preview and injury report for the second to last round of AMA Pro Motocross at Unadilla in New York. A lot transpired last weekend at Ironman with Jet Lawrence getting penalized, Chase Sexton crashing out, and Hunter Lawrence grabbing his first ever 450 motocross win. This weekend for the 450 class, Sexton will sit out after his crash at Ironman, but Hunter, Eli Tomac, and others will be there to challenge Jet, who has lost 2 races in a row now. Speaking of others, rejoining the series this weekend will be Ken Roczen, who had surgery on his ankle towards the end of Supercross. Surely Ken is looking for gate drops before the SMX finals, and he has proven in the past he can come off the couch and run with the top guys, especially at Unadilla, where he's won before. Jet, though, holds a 47-point lead over Hunter in the 450 standings, and if he can gain just 3 more points on him this weekend, he will wrap up the 450 Motocross Championship on Saturday. In the 250s, it's Hayden Deegan versus Joe Shimoda, and with 51 points separating the two, Deegan could also wrap up the championship 1 round early if he beats Shimoda this weekend. Though Deegan has actually never won at Unadilla before, so this could be the chance for Tom Viale, Seth Hamaker, or someone else to get in the mix as well. Now, for more on that Unadilla track, here's retired pro Jason Thomas.
The penultimate round of the 2025 Pro Motocross Championship and the 27th round of the Greater Super Motocross World Championship is here, and we are at Unadilla. Now, Unadilla has probably seen some of the biggest improvements that we've seen in a racetrack going back decades. And this was a beloved racetrack in the 70s. The loam that was on this racetrack was like no other, and it created a historic legacy that carries on to this day. But what happened in the 90s and 2000s was all of that soil, the topsoil and the loam, exited the building. It was carried out on motorcycles year after year, and all that was left was bedrock and, for lack of a better term, the rock itself. And it really became a track that the riders didn't care for so much. You just heard year after year harsh comments, really critical exit press conferences from riders like Ricky Carmichael and Damon Bradshaw over the years. And to be fair, I was racing and it was warranted. Fast forward to now, though, and the Robinson family has done a great job of bringing that soil back in. And really that started right around the 2012 season. They brought in topsoil. They really tried to work it back in to create a more supple racetrack that had more texture to it than what had happened in the 90s and 2000s. That has carried on into today, and it is a track now where you don't hear these harsh comments. Does it have a hard base still? Yes, it does. Is the roost really painful? Of course, it still is, but traction, the ability to create new lines, ruts in the corners, all those things have come a long way since the darkest days of Unadilla, and it's gone from a racetrack where the riders really dreaded heading to upstate New York, now to it has its own place, and it's come back to a racetrack where the riders are at least neutral, and of course the fans love visiting this racetrack. Another upside of Unadilla, you get a little bit of a break in the temperatures, highs of 80 degrees, a cool morning. That is a far departure from what we saw at Ironman or races like Hangtown, where temperatures were in the 80s, 90s with really high humidity. This is a nice reprieve from that. So riders are starting to come around on this racetrack. When you go back 20 or 30 years, they really did not care for it. So should be a great weekend. Everybody enjoy Unadilla, whether you're at home or at the facility. And we'll talk to you next week for the finale in Butts Creek.
Thanks, JT. Now for the injury report brought to you by Leatt. In the 450 class, Jason Anderson and Aaron Plessinger are both out with illnesses. And Grant Harlan, Derek Kelly, and Joey Savacci are all out with leg injuries. Freddie Noren is out with a broken foot, and Colt Nichols is out with a thumb injury, while Cooper Webb has had surgery on his knee. And finally, as we mentioned earlier, Chase Sexton hurt his shoulder in his crash at Ironman, and he will sit out the next 2 rounds. In the 250 class, Max Anstey is still out with a broken leg, while Jet Reynolds returned from a broken leg at Ironman only to re-break the same leg, so he is back on the injured list. More bad news for Pierce Brown, who also returned last weekend after breaking his back in Supercross. He had a bad get-off at Ironman and is banged up, so he will sit out the last 2 rounds. Casey Cochran and Nick Romano are both out with shoulder injuries, and Trevor Cullop is still recovering from a broken femur and a stroke after his crash at Hangtown, so please, if you can, go to roadtorecovery.com to help out Trevor. Evan Ferry is out with an Achilles injury, and Jalik Swoll, who returned earlier this season from an Achilles injury, just announced he tore his calf muscle at Ironman, so he will be out. Chance Hymas, Cameron McAdoo, and Gavin Towers all have knee injuries and will be out. Caden Minear is out with a thumb injury, and Carson Mumford is out with an ankle injury. Meanwhile, Michael Mosman has been battling an ankle injury since Washougal, but plans on lining up at Unadilla. And as we said last week, Styles Robertson has had ongoing wrist issues that has caused him to announce his retirement from professional racing. Now for some good news. Ty Masterpool will return this weekend after missing the last 4 rounds due to a broken hand. And Cole Davies, who broke his arm at the last round of Supercross after an impressive rookie season, will return this weekend for his pro motocross debut. And that's it for the preview and injury report for Unadilla happening this Saturday, which can be viewed live on Peacock. Speaking of Peacock, the WMX will return again this weekend with their normal Friday schedule, and highlights from those races will be aired on Peacock. This is excellent exposure for the WMX racers in just their second year back racing. Will Lala Turner go for the clean sweep again? Likewise, can anyone challenge Jet or Deegan? You will just have to tune in on Saturday to find out.